All right, here we go. So happy Tuesday. Welcome to Mindset Monday on a Tuesday. We switched the date in honor of course, Martin Luther King Day. So one thing we're going to do differently today is kind of kick it off together, but we're also going to have it live stream on Facebook. We're going to record it. We're going to have it put out to YouTube. So for anybody who ends up missing this, you'll have tons of options to be able to come find it. And I'm super blessed to have Shawna Kellems with me. Shawna is a sales rep for Jago Homes, and we've worked together for some years now, and I've got to watch her journey in terms of first getting started all the way to achieving selling over 100 homes last year. Good job, congratulations. But what really impresses me most about her is knowing a little bit about her story. As we were doing the background work and preparing for today's show, if you will, I really learned some pretty amazing things about your journey and some of the things that you've had to overcome, and which is why we settled on the topic of overcoming adversity. So I'm going to let her tell the story, but before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, your family, and quick little introduction.
So I am the oldest of two fabulous parents, a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was a farmer. So I grew up running creek banks and through fields, was pretty much a nerd slash tomboy slash wallflower for most of my life. I have two kids, Andrew and Kaylin. They're both grown and kind of doing their own thing now, but they are truly amazing. They do so much for me every single day. Of course, like you said, I spend a lot of time selling Jago Homes, which I definitely feel is one of the most important parts of my life at this point. But definitely my family is top. That's my favorite time.
Yep, family first, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what did you do prior to your current career or role? And if you want to kind of get into some of the things we talked about in terms of the adversity that you faced also.
Well, I was one of those that jumped out of high school. I was married probably less than a month from graduating high school. I married a preacher, which is an interesting lifestyle to say the least. Of course, during that time, I had my two girls, but that kind of all came to an abrupt end when he committed suicide. That sudden change really brought to my attention my career choices and supporting my kids, in that what I was doing was not going to do that. I was not going to be able to do that on my own. Dead end jobs. And I'll share this one particular story of being at the grocery store, and I needed food to take to lunch for my work, and I needed a gallon of milk. And I knew that with the few things that I also had in the cart, some choices had to be made to fit into the money that I had available at that time. And I sort of went into a panic attack at the store, went out to my car, cried for a solid 10 or 15 minutes. But then, it's like you have to put your head on straight. And I went back in the store. I bought half a gallon of milk and a small jar of peanut butter to make some sandwiches, and it worked. And we made it to the next check.
Yeah. So, when it comes to, obviously the subject of overcoming adversity, I mean, there's no bigger curveball that life can ever throw you. And first, just thank you for being willing to share that. And I know how hard something like that is and impactful on your life. But what you've done since then is what's really impressive. So can you tell us just kind of a little bit about your current role and some of your accomplishments, and then let's go and fill the gap between those two areas.
Sure. So a really good friend of mine, Deborah Ross, her and I had worked together previously, and she was kind of bragging on Facebook about this job that she had at Jago. We ended up connecting and having breakfast together, where she told me about her job, and she thought I would be a great fit. We talked it over. I knew it was something I would love to do. I would love the chance to do it. Was quite nervous, but she insisted that I sit my my resume to Sarah, and that kind of all took place. And in the middle of that, I was working as a receptionist at a car dealership, and I had talked to the sales manager there, and I had asked him about his thoughts of me selling cars, and he indicated that wouldn't be a good fit for me at the time. So,
and you had never had any sales experience prior to Jago,
correct.
Okay.
And that's where he was coming from, that he didn't think it would be a good fit. So his words to me meant that I needed a change. It meant that I needed that job at Jago more than I even realized. And I think it gave me the extra focus to try and get the job.
And that's interesting because typically what I see is that when people get delivered that, somebody chops you down a little bit, right?
Right.
You have typically it goes one of two areas. You either can take that and go downward, or you can take that and go upward. And you chose to take that. And I think that was probably a conscious decision that you made of, let me show you what I can do type of thing. So let me prove you wrong, if you will. But was that, how did you, is that something you thought about, or is that just something that's naturally built into you to just keep pressing forward no matter what happens to you or what anybody says to you?
I think some of it is just my mom and dad and the things that they taught me. My dad's saying was always, you can do anything you set your mind to. Over and over and over. I've heard it a million times if I've heard it once. And I knew I could do it if I set my mind to it.
Yeah.
And I put the work in.
I love that. You mentioned setting your mind to it. So how has mindset impacted the growth of your business? Because I know that's something that we've talked a lot about.
Sure.
So can you touch base on that and talk about, your mindset at that time and then since then?
So, one of the big things in the beginning was anxiety. Like I said, the panic attack, I had those more than I'd like to mention. So I knew that part of my growth was going to have to be getting some control over that. And again, my wonderful friend Deborah insisted that I talk to a, counselor of sorts. In that time, though, there seemed to be a lot of stigma around going to somebody for help with mental health challenges. And that was something that was a bit to overcome because it made me feel weak or that kind of thing. But I knew that it was time for a shift. That was time to take control of that so that I can get to a situation where I didn't have to worry about buying milk again. I knew that was part of what was going to have to change.
And I know that, I think to a certain extent, even today, it's seeking help or counseling and things like that for whatever reason. Sometimes it can have a negative context throughout the society. Whereas I look at it completely different. It is you trying to go out and improve yourself because we know we're not built to do this on our own, I'm really big into coaching anyways. And to me, that's just a life coach, help me. So I have business coaches, and then it's okay, how do we, improve every aspect? So we teach 7 different areas of life, and the mental and family side of things. I was talking to actually somebody about this the other day, and it was talking about marriage counseling, and is that a good or a bad thing? And the context is, if you go into marriage counseling, you're having problems with your marriage, when that cannot be true. It could be further from the truth. Right. It's I care so much about this person that I want to go make it better. Exactly. So that it's the best version that we possibly can be.
Absolutely. I will say that during that time too, you go to get help because it's so easy to feel like you're a victim of that situation, a victim of what's happened, a victim of addiction, a victim of abuse, of all these things. And you don't want to allow that mindset to be in control.
Yeah.
You have to make a shift from that and overcome that victim mentality, because it's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah. And I think you wrote something in as we were preparing for this, and I have it up on our other screen here now. It says, do you want to live the rest of your life like this? And is that something that you just kind of asked yourself, or where did that come from?
Somebody said that to me. And in that conversation, it was a matter of, you have the choice to either live like this or live different. And it was a boss at the time. And I mean, I knew instantly when those words were said, I don't want to live like this.
You know, and that's something that I talk about a lot with various people, but you know, none of us can control everything that happens to us, but we can all control how we react to it. And I think that's one important thing that I recognized in your journey is you took control of your own reaction to what had happened to you in life through adversity, and you know, you seeked help with that, but at the same time, you have to make the decision to even seek help. So you didn't allow yourself to become victim of your circumstances. Instead, you took control of your life and moved forward from there. So what was something that, you know, looking back now, what is something that you wish you would have known, you know, kind of before you started this journey of growth?
I think a big thing for me was, and I learned this actually talking to the counselor, most of what I needed was already there. My parents had taught me a great deal of the right things. And I had lost connection with those things, and I needed to reconnect and make those things. You know, I had gotten to a point where I was just exhausted every day, waiting for that next bad thing to happen. And again, that shift was changing that from expecting that bad thing to looking for that good thing. And sometimes you have to dig harder and work harder to look for the good thing that's coming, the light that's out there, the positivity. But it's so worth it.
Is that something that you had to retrain yourself to do?
Absolutely.
And how, well, if somebody, you know, for one of our listeners, if somebody is either going through that themselves or sees somebody going through it, like, how did you go about retraining your mindset when it comes to those types of things?
So I know you later on, you'll see where I talk about push, the word push. So pause, understand, self, and help. Sometimes you just have to pause. You have to understand the situation that you're in. Think about the perception. Like, is what's happening, is what I'm thinking, is that just a feeling, or is that reality? Or, you know, what is the reality? Is it a bad day, or did you just spill milk?
I saw a Facebook post on that. It was really impactful to me just this past weekend. And somebody posted, said, did you have a bad day, or did you have a bad 10 or 15 minutes?
Exactly.
And I think that we tend to associate, let the whatever bad happened or the negative portion of our day override all the good that we accomplish. So I love that little acronym that you use, push, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here shortly. What else? Is there anything else with your journey?
In the self, you know, there's just sometimes you just have to, as crazy as it sounds, stop and talk to yourself. You know, self-care, self-talk, self-thoughts. Start that day. For me, I start the day with, I have a very specific genre of music that I listen to. It's very uplifting, pop. If it's mushy, gushy, sad, it's got to go, thumbs down. I've got to have that positive start to the day so that I start my day looking for good things.
I love that. Yeah, so I mean, so it starts as soon as you get out of bed. It's, you know, you set your day off on the right tone, and then carry on. What if you have, and it's, I know this isn't a question, but come put her on spot in some way prepared for, but what if you have that bad moment in the day? Like you have that, you know, whatever, that issue, that meeting didn't quite go what you want, and you find yourself in maybe not the best mindset. So you have a little adversity in your day. Do you have anything that you do to kind of reset?
I really go back to that same scenario. I have to pause, whether it's just stopping and taking a breath, again, pausing and sometimes early in the morning when I first get to work, there's so much to do. I have to pause. I have to make my list so that I know that I can get control of it. Sometimes it's finding a positive meme out there and I'll share it. It's just a matter of this is my good spot. I'm going to share that positive vibe with the world, and then understand the reality of that moment. It is just a moment.
Yeah.
It is not the whole day.
It's a blimp on the radar.
And then again, coming back to that self-talk. And if it's a really bad moment and I just can't seem to regain focus, then I'm going to have to reach out for help. Sometimes I have to reach out to some friends that I know have those positive vibes. That type of thing, like reach out. And even sometimes I'll stop and schedule a time to go help somebody else, and it resets my mind into thinking
That's good.
somebody else, I know somebody else out there has it worse than I do. Help them and take the focus off the thing that your bad focus is on. That's not really that bad.
I love that. So speaking of adversity, what does adversity mean to you?
So adversity is your dark place. It is different for every person. Mine might be slight in comparison to the person next door down the road. But at that moment in time, it was a very dark box, if I could call it that. That's kind of what I call it, that I was stuck in, and that I just had to look outside of that box and find ways to crawl out of it and get out of that dark spot.
Yeah,
to find a better direction.
Yeah, and I'm in the adversity that I faced, and most of viewers they know my story as well. It was similar. It was just a adversity to me is something that is a lot of times either in my control or beyond my control that has happened to me that is preventing me from following the trajectory of life that I want to follow. So it's that speed bump. Right. So that we all hit. And I think it's important. Yeah, curve. Yeah. Like, whoa, where did that come from? But I think it's important that we have these types of conversations in order to be able to recognize that, hey, it's going to happen to all of us at some point. Every single person is going to reach some adversity. And then B, how can you stop, reflect, and what process do you have for overcoming it? Which leads us to our next question is, tell us a story about one time when you had to overcome some adversity.
So I want to take this back to, again, the things that my parents taught me that I didn't understand at the time. It took me till an adult to realize the things that I had learned. So my dad
was still figuring it out.
Yes. My dad was a sharecropper. So our year-to-year financial survival was based on this crop of tobacco that the four of us, my younger brother, my mom and dad and I, were sort of in charge of, raising that tobacco, hoeing those rows, getting it in the barn, stripping it at the barn, and getting it to a warehouse to sell. That was just really a part of my dad's income. In one particular year, I was probably 9 years old or so, and we had a pretty significant car accident, and my dad's hand was crushed for the most part, his left hand, and there was not any possible way for him to be able to participate in what had to happen with tobacco at that time. A lot of our friends and families circled around us to help us, and we had cut the tobacco, and it was on the sticks in the field. And so many people were even at my house spending the night to work on the tobacco the next day and everything. But as it was, a horrible storm came in the middle of the night. And those of you out there that know anything about tobacco, you cannot get mud on it. If you do, you're not going to get any money out of it. So we woke up, all of us woke up and took off to the fields. It was so dark because of the clouds from the storm. And I just remember, in the darkness, you would find your stick of tobacco, you would wait,
Bill,
pause, and it's like my mom was up on this wagon, so you found that stick. As soon as the light hit, you ran that stick to the wagon where she was at, and you would just push it up. At the time, I was pretty little, so it was a really hard push. Those sticks to tobacco are really heavy. But, mom was there. My family was there, and we were helping each other. and you just didn't even give thought to the hard work that was there. It had to be done, and you just did it.
Mm.
You didn't complain. You didn't question what you were doing. You didn't ask how much longer till we're done. You knew that nobody was stopping until every stick of tobacco was safely in a barn out of the rain. And it was just that simple.
It's just something that you had to do. So we see this a lot in business, right? Where there's certain things that you just have to do. And it is, hey, if you want to achieve X goal or whatever it is, then these things have to happen. And listening to that story just kind of reminded me of that is, it's the perseverance, not perfection. It's like, hey, we have got to achieve X. And we might not be perfect. I'm sure y'all didn't load that truck perfectly in the middle of the night in the rain, but you got it done, right? And sometimes we have to be able to focus on what are the core activities that we have to do and then go do them. There's something hanging on my wall, which I don't think they can see. It's grit, and it's made up of hustle, passion, and perseverance. And that's something that I know you have a lot of, the bounce back. That's what I consider grit is the bounce back. And I bring that up because it's specific to overcoming adversity. Like that is, to me, it isn't, I'm not the smartest person, most talented person, anything like that, but I've been able to be successful in my career because I have grit, and no matter what, I'm going to show up the next day, and keep going.
And I think in our career, I'm just jump in and share this. People are coming to us for help to find that home. They need to know that you have the grit, the perseverance. You're going to do what it takes to help them figure out the best way to get into this home, to fix those adversities that they may be feeling from having a home that's too small or a home that's too big or whatever their case may be. And they need to make this shift in their life, and they need to feel that vibe of grit and determination from you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that people want to know that you're going to show up for them, you're going to go to bat for them, and that you're going to ultimately get the job done.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I agree with that. So what tips would you share on overcoming adversity?
Again, the push that I talked about, pause is different for everybody. Some people breathing techniques, some people exercise, some people, read books, self-help books. I know last week you had somebody that their focus was on their morning routine, and that's what really their pause was every single day. Of course, then understand whatever the situation is, look at the reality of it, not just the emotion.
That's good.
And
write that down. Look at the reality, not just the emotions of what you feel.
And in there's always self-care and self-talk. And part of that is surrounding yourself with people and things that have that same mindset as yours. It's very important. At least for me, it is.
Same. I got to control my environment 100%.
Yes. I so take on energies from other people, and if they're down, then I want to go there and help them, and then that ends up putting me down there with them. So it's better to get everybody up where we need to be. And then of course, help. There's always either the help that you need to reach out and get, and there's help that you need to take out and give to people. And depending on this particular situation that you're in, if you're in that dark box right now, then you need to reach out and help. You need to get out of that box. If you are not in the box and you're just having a bad day or that type of thing, then you need to help others that's in the box.
Yep. Yeah, I think that, and that's never underestimate the power of helping somebody else. Like it's one thing to help yourself, and that feels good to accomplish things in life. But some of my greatest, gratitude or pleasure that I've gotten out of life is when I pour into others and watching somebody else grow or achieve or even just, get in a better place, even from a mindset standpoint, that really helps yourself.
Like the day we met at Dawson Springs.
Yep.
With all the toys.
Yeah.
Phenomenal day.
Yeah, it was. I'll never forget that at all. So let's talk about overcoming adversity and what what tips would you provide? I know you kind of gave us the push tip a little bit already, but let's jump back into that and kind of talk about any other tips that you might have.
So as far as why it's important, of course, for me, why is I needed to be able to buy my kids groceries and not have to stress about it. I shared a story on Facebook a few months ago where my life is just changed because I can walk into the grocery and buy what I want to buy. And it's not that way for everybody. And I know that. I've been there, and I want people to be able to overcome that and have that same ability to just walk into the grocery. And now, of course, my kids live on their own now, but at the same time, I'm able to make sure I have milk and both of their houses have milk, period.
Yeah, and I know it's something that we talk about is the power of achievement also with, that I did it, or that, I am enough, because self-worthiness, I think, plays in when we get
success is just not simply measured by nickels and dimes. It's the I did it. It's the oh my God, I did it. It's those goals. I set goals every year, with my sales, and I have goals, and I have a stretch goal, and I have the stretch goal, and then I have an oh my God goal. And this year I was able to reach the OMG goal, and that was exciting.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, that's something that I fully believe in too, is set really big goals, which I know is something you do, because the really big goal is going to push you harder, and it's going to push you earlier, because it's not like, oh, I can catch this up in the second or third quarter of the year. You got to start from the get-go, and it drives you. And one thing for me, and I'm just speaking to myself now, is if I don't set a really huge goal and I end up hitting whatever my goal is in October, I might hit cruise mode. And I got to avoid that, because I know I got too many people depending on me. I got to make my world big enough for everybody else. Right. So, it's part of that is setting really, really big goals so that it helps drive me consistently.
Something that makes a big difference in this too is, instead of having a sales manager like I talked about previously, I have a sales manager now that's constantly telling me, you are enough, keep going, you can do it, kind of thing. So makes a difference.
Oh, it does. Were there days that you kind of questioned, the journey that you were on, and how did you overcome those self-imposed mental obstacles?
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't matter how hard you try, at least for me, you always find that there's some of that darkness back there, and there's just days where it just kind of takes over, and you don't feel like, especially me, I'm sort of an overthinker, and I would lay in bed and just like replay conversation after conversation. If I didn't make a sale that I really thought I was going to have, I'm going to replay it in my head 100 times, trying to figure out where I went wrong, what did I miss, that type of thing. And you can just wear that out until you're falling back onto that, exhausting yourself over those little things, and needing again to shift that focus over to what good did I do in that moment, instead of focusing on that.
Yeah, just never lose sight of the good that was achieved.
And even sometimes when I do replay it and I do figure out what I did wrong, I have to stop and think, okay, now I know not to do this again. It's not a bad thing if I learn something I'm not supposed to do.
Yeah, that's win or learn.
Yes.
There's nothing else, right?
Right.
No losses. We either win or we learn. Right. I love that. What is one piece of advice you give to someone that's facing adversity, or just wanting to change the general direction of their life?
Again, I'm going to go back to when I was a kid. Find that little girl that was in that field, lifting that stick at the back of that probably weighed as much as she did, and pushing it up in the air to her mom. You have to go there in the dark, find that whatever's there in the dark, and lift it up and be ready when the light comes to just push as hard as you can possibly push, and don't stop until you get get it where it needs to be.
Yeah, and even if you get knocked down, so we all get knocked down on this journey from time to time, pick yourself right back up and get going again. And,
Absolutely.
and I think that is the key to all of this is no matter what happens, keep going. And if you keep going, good things will happen. You know, it's you just got to keep pushing forward, keep hitting play, one foot in front of the other.
And we have to remember, I mean, it's just like, and I hate to keep going back to that night. It was so dark, but there's always going to be that lightning that fills the sky, that good energy, that positive vibe. It is there. We just have to stop and search for it and not let our focus be on that dark moment.
Yeah, make sure that you focus on the light, not the dark. I like that.
When you're in the dark, you've got to look up.
Yeah.
The rain might be hitting you in the face. It might feel miserable in a moment, but that light is coming. And as you search more and more for the light, you'll see it more and more. You'll find it. It'll last longer. The days of light will be prominent overall.
Yeah.
If that's what you're searching for.
I love that. I love that. So what's next for you? I know this journey doesn't end here. So what's going next?
You know, doing this, this is quite a bit out of my comfort zone, but I want to help other people who've been through similar situations and let them see the light that I have found outside the box. And I want to be there to help them lift their way out of that darkness into a better life, you know, shift into a different mindset that's positive.
Yeah, no, I love that. And if somebody has a similar journey and you know, would want to reach out and maybe connect or have a conversation and or seeking that help, do you either recommend places they could go or can they reach directly out to you? Like, what are your
I would visit your doctor if you're especially in a scary moment and you just don't know what's going to happen. Being a survival of someone that committed suicide, please always ask for help. There are people there that's going to miss you sadly and always and forever, and you should reach out and find help. You're welcome to call me. I'm more than happy to help, but we also need to reach out to
get the professional services, people who have been trained and that type of thing.
Yes. And just know that I personally love and care for you, whoever you are, wherever you are. And as well, many other people that I've come across in the journey. That's amazing.
Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you spending some time with me. You had such an amazing journey, and I'm so proud of everything that you've overcome. And I know you gave some really good tips to be able to help others. So if overcoming adversity is something that you're have dealt with in the past or that maybe you're currently dealing with, like she said, definitely reach out and seek some help. You know, I know that both of us would always be willing to have a conversation and help point you in the right direction, but ultimately, like we discussed, you have to focus on the light, not the dark. Keep showing up, keep pressing play every single day, give it 110%. You know, I say this all the time, you know, we have such a limited time frame on this earth. Why not be the best version of yourself? And when we get knocked down, pick back up and keep going again and keep striving to be the best, and just don't ever give up. No matter what, don't ever give up.
Keep pushing.
Yeah. All right, well, that wraps us up today. Next week, we have another special guest. Stay tuned for the announcement on that. But Shawna, thank you so much for coming on. You did absolutely amazing, and I know everybody definitely learned something today.
I hope.
All right, see y'all.